On the morning of November 5th, 1989, the bodies of newlyweds Dan and Linda Broderick were found inside their upper-scale San Diego home. The shooter turned out to be Betty Broderick, Dan's ex-wife, who had fired 5 rounds before fleeing the scene. The brutal homicides shocked the nation, and the ensuing legal proceedings revealed a deeply troubled relationship between Dan and Betty, marked by betrayal and deadly rage. Some saw Betty as a cold-hearted killer, while others viewed her as a symbol of a woman pushed past her limits by a system that failed her.
Whispers rise in the dead of night, secrets buried in the fading light. The truth's a storm, it will not stay. It crashes through like judgment day. Chains will break where shadows lie. The southern wind, it's a battle cry. Sisters of the South, hear the call. We rise together, we stand tall. SOS, the truth will ignite. Justice burns, a beacon of light.
Hey guys, I'm Tiffany.
I'm Stephanie.
And we're Sisters of the South, back with another true crime story for you today. But before we get started, we just want to remind you to please hit that like button if you like our video. Subscribe for more true crime content every week. And if you hit that little notification bell, it will let you know when we're back with another video. We want to say thank you to everyone who stuck with us during our time of
Absolutely.
being MIA.
Yes.
We've had a lot of family emergencies, a lot of things we've had to deal with, and we appreciate you guys sticking with us. And all you new subscribers, we have celebrated you, I promise.
Absolutely.
We are trying to get back on track with new videos every week, so if you can just hang in there, hopefully we'll get back. And we hope you like our new setup.
Yeah, it's new. We've worked hard on it, and I think that it's going to work out a lot better for us.
We
So
like it so far.
We're excited about it.
So, yeah. But anyway, with all that being said, I'll let Stephanie get on with the story.
Okay, let's get into it.
All right.
Elizabeth, also known as Betty Broderick, was born on November 7th, 1947 in the suburbs of New York City. And like her future husband, Daniel Broderick, she was raised in a large, strict Catholic family, which stressed the importance of a wife's role in supporting her husband. And I think that definitely that generation was they lived by very strict rules on how to be a wife anyway. But coming from a Catholic home and a large family, Betty already had her mindset on what her expectation was and her husband and how she was going to be a wife. But here's some of what Betty remembers about her childhood. Here's a clip. Check it out.
Elizabeth Ann Broderick, Broderick.
Maybe pull that microphone down a little towards you there. So that, yeah. Okay.
Miss Broderick, when were you born?
November 7th, 1947,
Okay. And where were you born?
in New York City.
And what area were you raised in? Your younger area?
In the suburbs in Westchester County, New York.
Okay. And at your birth, what was your name?
Elizabeth Ann Bisceglia,
And
Bisceglia.
And how was Elizabeth spelled on your birth certificate?
Elizabeth.
And have you been known by any other names as you grew up and got older?
Yes, my family called me Bootsy when I was little, and then Betty Ann later. And then when I met Dan, he started calling me Bets.
And have you had any other nicknames?
People thought my name was Betsy because he called me Bets. And when I took French in high school, I changed the Z to an S on Elizabeth because I thought that was cool.
Okay. And did you also be known by Betty people?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay. And could you tell me a little bit about your education?
I was one of 6 children, and we all went to Catholic schools all the way through. I went to Immaculate Conception first, and then Maria Regina High School, and then the College of Mount St. Vincent. And the high school and college were all girls' establishments at that time.
Okay. And now you went to Catholic girls' schools. Was that also in the lower grades, or was it when you got in the upper grades?
High school and college.
Okay. And they were all, I take it, on the East Coast in the New York area?
Correct.
And where were you in relationship to your brothers and sisters? What
I'm
age?
third of the 6.
No, overall, it's just foundational. Go ahead.
When you were going to school, were you involved in any sports or hobbies?
Yes, we had very full childhoods. We did every sport imaginable. We did horseback riding and rowing and snow skiing and water skiing and tennis and badminton and croquet and horseshoes and everything. Golf, everything.
Did you take at any point in time, or one of the things that you did that involved shooting?
Yes, and I think it was 8th grade, a summer program at the Catholic Youth Organization. That was one of the activities that we did with Father McHale at our parish.
Okay. And what did you shoot at that time?
22 rifles.
Okay, so this video gives you an idea of Betty's raising and her family dynamics. Also sounds like she was somewhat familiar with a firearm as well. So, I mean, she had a well-rounded childhood. You know, Betty was one of many siblings, pretty much in the middle. So she had that middle child syndrome, but you don't see that. That doesn't come through when she is speaking.
No, she kind of knows who she is.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. She's very well versed in who she is and what her expectation is. And to be honest with you, I think watching the clips while Betty is speaking kind of gives you an idea of who Betty was as a person and what her expectations was. And she knew herself very well. And she's very candid about what her expectations were. So it intrigues me with her. It's really hard to say this, but I like Betty.
Well, I kind of do too. I mean, I just watched a couple of videos, and I like her. I like
and she was human. I mean,
how she
had
handles
her flaws.
herself.
Yes,
even with all the crazy questions, she handled it very well.
Yes, very well.
So she's very put together.
Yeah, very much. Yeah. She is. So Betty met Dan while she was in college on a trip to visit a friend at Notre Dame University, where Dan was a pre-med major. And here's a little bit about what Betty had to say about their first encounter. Here you go.
Did you, at some point, meet somebody by the name of Dan Broderick?
Yes, when I just started college.
Okay. And how did you come to meet Dan Broderick?
I went out to Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana for a football weekend.
And was that something that was planned, that you were going to meet him? Accident?
No, I didn't know I was going to meet him. He was sitting across from me at the table at a party, and he asked to borrow a pen. And I had a pen, so I lent him my pen.
Okay, and what happened?
He wrote on the tablecloth, I found out was his name, and it said Daniel Thomas Broderick III, M.D.A., and the A was in parentheses. And so I asked him, I said, what's that? What is that? And he said, I just got into medical school, so it's Daniel Thomas Broderick III, M.D., almost. Yeah. And it was funny.
And how did you find him to be at that time?
A nice person.
So yeah, with that clip, you kind of gives you an idea that when Betty went out that evening and she met Dan, she wasn't out on the prowl looking for a man.
No, she's just out having fun.
Yeah, she's out having fun with a girlfriend, and Dan sees her across the room, and there was something about Betty that drew him to her. I don't know if she maybe had a little bit of vulnerabilism or something that he picked up on, but he did approach her, and he kind of did it in a cutesy way.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
it's very cute. I like it, but she's not very forward. She's just straight to the point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not like she's very out there.
I don't think she was real giddy about him at first. I think she thought, oh, this is a nice guy. He's a little intriguing. Maybe I'll talk to him a little bit more, but I don't think she was head over heels immediately when she met him. And she gave it some time, seems like. So let's talk a little bit about Dan Broderick and who he was. Now, he was born on November 22nd, 1944, and he came from a large Pittsburgh family and put himself through both Cornell University for a medical degree and Harvard Law School. And keep in mind, both of those universities, they're high-end schools.
Mm-hmm.
So he had high expectations for his education, and he wanted a really good career. So anytime that you present, a diploma from either one of these schools, of course, people are going to be impressed. And I think that both him and Betty, the outward appearance was very important to both of them.
Yeah.
Dan was a highly successful and driven, brilliant San Diego medical malpractice attorney. At his peak, he served as the president of the San Diego County Bar Association. He was also known in large circles as an aggressive and highly competent professional, but also gained a reputation as a cunning and sometimes ruthless strategist in bitter litigation. And, let's be honest, when you're doing litigation, you're going to have to be very strategic and to the point. And you want to do it quickly too.
Well, yeah.
With precision. So sounds like he had perfected that by the time he became successful. It also seems as though, by Betty's account, that Dan's aggressive and controlling behavior seeped into their relationship as well. And I can definitely see that because he's working all these long hours for his career. And he's going to bring that home.
But he's also got to be that kind of person to begin with, or he wouldn't be able to have the job that he has.
Exactly. And over time, he's going to build his confidence.
Absolutely.
In his
he's going to get better at it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, he's going to bring that home and probably do a lot of litigating between Betty, the kids, and the family,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that probably drug her down some, and she probably got a little sick of it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. He made sure that Betty knew where he stood from the very beginning of their relationship. And here's a little clip on what Betty has to say about that. Here you go.
Very early on in our relationship, I told you it was my car, and I had a lot of friends and a lot of things to do. We were driving from the east side to the west side of New York on our way up to Mount St. Vincent to meet a bunch of my friends. And he pulled the car over and turned off the key and said, "Let's just get this straight. You don't tell me what we're going to do, ever." And I said, "Oh, sorry. Sorry. What do you want to do? It's no big deal that we do this. What do you want to do?" And he said, "No, I don't have anything to do. Just don't tell me what to do."
Okay. And after you got married, did you go on a honeymoon anywhere?
Yes, we spent, I think it was a week at a private home in St. Thomas.
Okay. Now, after during the honeymoon and after you were then married, was there a change in the relationship between you and Mr. Broderick?
Yes, very much so.
And what was that change?
Well, a dating relationship is entirely different from a marriage. And during the dating relationship, I had my own job and my own money and my own car, and I lived with my parents, and I had some freedom and stuff. And after the wedding, he was in charge of everything, and I moved in with him, and he took charge of the bank books and the paychecks and everything, and I more or less had to do what he said.
Okay. Was that something, did you, at that point, did you cease paying the bills and doing anything with the money that you brought in?
I never paid any bills with my money.
So yeah, Dan made it perfectly clear during their dating relationship where he stood as far as a woman telling him what to do, especially Betty.
That he's going to be in charge.
Yeah, he's in charge. Nobody tells him what to do.
Of everything.
I'm Dan Broderick. Nobody tells me what to do, especially you.
Mm.
And the thing is, with poor Betty, I feel for her in that because he comes to her town. They're spending her money going out to see her friends. She's, taking him out to all of the little areas in her town and to entertain him. And then he wants to come across as, yeah, we're going to do it my way.
But it's very disrespectful to her.
It is. And I think the first mistake she made was letting that slip.
I agree.
Yeah, I do. I also think that that's the generation and our mother was in that generation where whatever the man says goes. Wherever the man goes, you follow him. Whatever he says, you do. But we also got to keep in mind, Betty was an educated woman. She went to college, very independent, come from a large family. She knew where she wanted to go and where she wanted to be, how she wanted life to be.
Well, and he didn't want her to step on his toes. Like, I'm going to be above you no matter what. And that's also his personality. It's not just the generation.
Exactly.
You know,
it wasn't
because
teamwork.
he could have had more respect.
Yeah.
And he had no respect for her.
No. And I think that he should have. I think just seeing how Betty carries herself, he should have definitely had respect for her. She's hardworking. And if he would have just seen her as a teammate instead of an opponent and a housemaid, then I think that they could have even been more successful than what the outward appearance was, to be honest. But Dan was having no part of that. So the couple went on to be married on April 12th, 1969, and faced financial difficulties in their early marriage, with Betty working multiple jobs to support the couple while Dan finished school. After medical school, Dan decided to also obtain a law degree. So, and let's be honest, like if he can't even respect her after her working multiple jobs to get him through school, then the woman is, at this point, she's never going to get any respect.
No,
from him.
never.
Never, ever. I mean, it just sounds like, and I don't think it started out that way. I think he watched Betty and realized, oh, I can control her. There was probably little signs of her that he picked up on. He's like, oh, I'm going to.
He might have known that from the very beginning, though.
Yeah.
Because he tried that really early on.
Yeah. And then when he asked her to marry him, she jumped on it because she saw something in Dan. I think she thought they would get in it and be teammates and be successful.
She looked past that. When you can't always look past those things. There are little things you can't look past.
Exactly. And I think her first mistake was letting him, get that one leg in. And then after that, it just probably snowballed, at that point. So after supporting the family with multiple jobs, Betty became pregnant with a daughter, Kim, and then later on a daughter, Lee. So now not only is she working multiple jobs while he's finishing up in school, they're financially strapped. Now they have 2 daughters. And Betty not only is taking care of the household, putting food on the table, taking care of the house, probably dolling up for Dan when he gets home, but now she's got to be a mom too. So she is totally strapped at this point and probably overly exhausted,
Yeah.
But she was very supportive in him going to school and doing all those things because, as she said in her testimony that I watched, whatever he wanted to do, it was my job to support him in doing that. So that's what I did. If Dan wanted to go to the moon and back, I was going to support that. And so that's what she did. But Betty would later claim in her court testimony, as we saw in the earlier clip, that after their marriage, Dan had become increasingly controlling, assuming almost total control over the couple's finances. So, of course, he's going to do that.
So Betty can work multiple jobs, send him to school, take care of the house, take care of the children, take care of his dirty clothes.
Yes.
But she cannot take care of the finances.
Oh, no. Absolutely
because he has
not.
to be in full control.
That's
he can't
right.
control anything else, but he's got to have the finances.
Yeah. And I think that he reeled that in slowly over time. And here's another clip of Betty's testimony on how Dan took financial control. Here you go.
At that point, did you cease paying the bills and doing anything with the money that you brought in?
I never paid any bills with my money.
Okay. Now, you indicated you didn't pay any of the bills. From that point on, would you know where the money was or what the finances of the family were?
What I meant about not paying the bills is I always lived with my parents.
Excuse me, non-responsive.
Suspend.
Did you have any idea of the finances of the family or what the money was going to be, how the money was going to be spent?
No.
So by the mid 1970s, the family had moved west after Dan took a job as an attorney for a prominent law firm specializing in medical malpractice. So the following years of financial struggles, the Brodericks were soon on the rise and settling into an affluent La Jolla neighborhood, joining country clubs and becoming regulars on the city's social scene. And speaking of social scenes, before we move forward, we want to speak about a really good social scene and social media company.
What would that be? Would that be our friends over at SoFly?
SoFly!
And we're going to show you a little video.
Here you go.
Hey guys, I wanted to come to you today about SoFly. SoFly is a family-owned business here in the Houston, Texas area, and they specialize in embroidery and engraving. So what they'll do is take your favorite accessories such as a cap, a hoodie, a purse, a jacket, and they will specialize it to your needs. They have an array of different colors, and if you want your logo or your name or maybe even your initials, they'll put that on there for you. Also, they do engraving on things such as leather patches and also on carving boards. They do our merchandise. We know that you'll be happy, so try them at least once. But just to give you some idea of how badass they are, we're going to show you a video. So here we go.
All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed that video. Go check them out. Let them know we sent you. And if you do happen to buy something from them, let us see a picture.
Oh,
we love
absolutely.
pictures.
That'd be so much fun. Do it. Try them out just once. We
Yeah.
know you'll be happy.
That's right.
So to outsiders, the family which welcomed two young sons by this time, which was Danny and Rhett, appeared to be wealthy, happy, and contentful. And I really think that Betty worked really hard for that to be their outward appearance to the world. Because God forbid, at this point, she has everything she's ever dreamed of. She worked really hard, the American dream, work really hard, and then become successful, have a beautiful home, they've got
Your
two
family.
boys, two girls. Her husband's extremely successful. Now she's a housewife, and she's got everything she'd ever dreamed of. And now, and she has her dream husband at this point. So, I think that that's what she wanted everyone to see on the outside, but that doesn't always mean that's what's going on inside the home.
Well, and that's what a lot of people do anyway. You
Yes.
don't want anyone to see that.
No,
Right?
no. And which nobody wants to. Nowadays, everybody puts their bad and good out on social media.
That's the whole purpose of
Yes,
social media.
Yes. But back then, especially your affluent people, they definitely didn't want their skeletons in the closet coming out. And I think Betty, all her life, made sure that the outward appearance was pristine.
Yeah.
That was her goal. But Betty had grown increasingly unhappy and angry that Dan spent little time with his family, and he was alleging that he had to continue to work long hours to ensure his professional success. And I think at this point, Dan's just used to not being home.
He is. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of the job, right? So
Yeah.
he's getting everything done, and she knows that.
Yeah.
She knows what she's getting herself into. But, it depends on how long he's out, right?
Yeah, there would be times that he wouldn't even come home. He'd he'd sleep at the office. We've all heard those stories, especially from way back then. Now you can just pull up your 360 app or whatever and find out where someone is. Back then you didn't.
I'm guessing he might be one of the reasons.
Yeah, right.
People like him is why we have Life 360.
That's right.
All these wives checking out to see where their husbands are.
Yeah, they're not sleeping
Or in
in
my
the
case,
office.
my children to find out if I'm at Whataburger.
So yeah, he was, and really, to be honest, he was taking full advantage of Betty by this point. And
Oh, yeah.
he had become successful enough that he had a full legal team behind him. So there was really no reason why Dan should be working those long hours anymore. I mean, he had to do that for years because it was just him and maybe his legal assistant or whatever he had. But now he's full-fledged successful with a legal team that does the legwork, and he probably just guides them on what they need to do. There's no reason why Dan needs to be spending 24 hours a day at the office. I mean, let's be honest. That's what you work hard for, so you don't have to do all of
And
that.
everyone else can make the money for you.
Exactly. But Dan, on the other hand, he's trying to fool Betty into thinking, he is so valuable at this company, he has to be there 24/7. But Betty would later claim that Dan had also begun criticizing both her looks and the family's home.
No.
Yeah, leading Betty to worry that he'd become despondent in their marriage. And her fears soon grew. And by 1983, she suspected Dan was having an affair with Linda Kolkina, a beautiful woman in her early 20s who Dan had hired to work as his assistant. Dan denied it, but eventually admitted to the affair and moved out of the family home in 1985. And so where Linda comes into play is he had worked with Linda previously at another law firm, but she was the lady who just answered the phones and directed the phone calls to the receptionist to where they needed to go. So when Dan comes home and tells her, hey, I've hired a legal assistant, and tells Betty this, she's all excited. And she's like, oh, that is so great. Like
You'll have more time at home.
You'll have more time at home. Who did you hire? And he goes on to tell her Linda. Well, Betty knew who Linda was, but she also is like, why are you hiring Linda? She's not a legal assistant. She knows nothing. All she can do is answer the phones. She also knew she was very young and green. And so she's trying to put two and two together in her head. Like, if you're going to pay this girl the salary of a legal assistant, why are you hiring someone who can only answer phones? Maybe do a little time.
She's getting paid for more than just being a legal assistant.
Exactly. And she's beautiful. She's young.
She doesn't have the baggage of the home and the kids. And honey, can you help? Can you be here for this and help me with this?
Absolutely.
She's not going to need any of that.
And keep in mind, Betty had suspected at this point, by the time he moves out, we're talking years, that she had suspected and had accused him many times of having an affair with Linda, and he would gaslight her over and over again. Well, you're just crazy. You're stressed out. You don't know what you're talking about. You're out of your mind. I would never do that. And the whole time he's sleeping with Linda, but Betty just can't prove it. She can't, she hasn't seen it with her own eyes. So he's gaslighting her. And then it finally gets to the point where he's just over it. And it probably because Linda was putting pressure on him to leave Betty.
Oh, probably.
So he's just like, screw it.
Because this young, pretty girl wants the ring on the finger and the nice big home and the nice car in the driveway and all the children.
Well, and listen, the really sad part about this, and I know Dan is gone, he can't defend himself, but while him and Betty were married, he comes from a big Irish family in Pittsburgh, and they would every March 17th for St. Patrick's Day would have these huge parties. Well, the year before he finally admitted he had an affair on that St. Patrick's Day party, he takes Linda to that party with his family and leaves Betty home. And then she hears through the grapevine, I think it was from one of her sister-in-laws, that Linda was there. And she's like, okay, at this point, I've accused him and he keeps gaslighting me. But let me tell you, I know now. And so it sent her over the edge with him. She was not letting him deny it anymore.
Well, yeah. How do you deny it at that point? Oh, I needed my legal assistant at my party.
Yes. And like she said,
not my wife.
Yeah, they would all go there and, drink heavily and have fun. It was a great party. And Betty loved going to that party. Oh, but he dumped her, right? Now, why he ever thought his ego was so big at this point, or maybe he didn't give a shit. But why did he think that it wouldn't get back to Betty? Maybe he kind of wanted it to.
I was going to say, I think maybe he wanted it to. How do you do that? You can't hide that.
No. So, Dan had his downfalls. Let's just say that. So,
well, I mean, you're calling out a lot of downfalls here.
a lot of red flags. And so this is where I really start feeling bad for Betty, because she is still wanting to think the best of her husband, even when he's not giving his best. She still wants.
Ever had a best at this point. I mean,
No.
it's years of using
Struggles.
and abusing her, right?
Struggles.
You know, mentally abusing her.
Yes.
And making her work.
Mhm.
And then saying, okay, well, you're just not good enough. So in other words, you were good enough while you were supporting me and my
Yes.
dreams. But now that I have them,
You're just a piece of trash.
you're
I'm gonna throw
nothing.
you out with
I
the
don't
garbage.
need you anymore. Hello, she's the mother of your children.
Yes.
She's taking care of the house.
Mhm.
She is putting in her
Yes.
time.
Yeah, and of course you're going to age through those processes.
Well, of
You know,
course.
she's older. She's not in her
And-
20s anymore.
And if he's screwing around, of course he's going to say, well, you know, I've got the young girl over here. You don't look good enough. You're not keeping the house. Well, you know what? If you washed a dish or took out the trash every once in a while,
Yes,
you'd be getting a lot more out of Betty.
absolutely. And not to mention, Linda ain't cleaning his underwear, he
The
washing
toilet.
his dish, having to cook for him, cleaning the toilet, all the things that comes with having a husband.
Yeah.
She's not dealing with any of that. Guess who's doing all of that?
Betty.
You know, so there's no skid marks that Linda has to clean up after
Oh,
him.
yeah.
in
She
his
doesn't
underwear.
see any of that.
Yeah, she don't have shout in her
She
wash.
thinks he's
in her washer.
perfect.
Yes,
That's right.
right. She doesn't
Yeah.
have to see all the things that come with being married, and so it's all rainbows and butterflies for Linda.
Mhm.
And Betty's getting the shit stick. Right.
Literally.
Literally the shit stick. And then he wants to gaslight, and he wants his cake and eat it too. Literally.
It's almost like, and I hate to say this, it's almost like he saw her before they even started dating and said, I wonder if I can manipulate her into giving me what I want.
Yes. And he found a shoe-in the night that they were going into town with Betty, when I guess maybe he thought she was being a little too bossy. And he's like, well, I'm fixing to let her know who I am.
Let's find out if she takes it or leaves
Yes.
it. And she took it, and here we
Yes.
are.
And you think, you know, if she had bit back, would he have married her?
Poor Betty could have had a great husband.
Yes. And I really think she deserved it. Now, I'm not
She
saying...
did. She did deserve it.
Yeah, I'm not saying Betty didn't
She's not
go
perfect.
off a rocker.
Yeah.
You know, she had her moments that I'm going to be
Hey,
honest.
all women and all men are a little crazy at
Yeah.
times. I mean, I'm not going to take away from
Absolutely.
that, but
But you got to think about the mental anguish that she was put through leading up to this. I mean, there is some very disheartening things that Betty did during the divorce process and what she put her children through. But I can also tell you that when you're going through mental anguish, you're not in your right mind sometimes, and you make mistakes. And she was put under a lot of pressure. But neither here nor there. At the end of the day, I really feel like Betty got the raw end of the deal.
I agree.
So let's talk a little bit about who Linda was.
Yeah, let's do it.
So Linda Colkina Broderick was born in Salt Lake City, Utah on June 26, 1961. Linda's friends describe her as a warm, vibrant, and outgoing woman with a wicked sense of humor. She was a caring, bubbly extrovert who loved life and aspired to be a housewife and a mother. So, let's think about this.
Okay.
Dan,
She wants Betty's life.
yes, exactly. Dan leaves Betty after he got everything out of her he possibly could to marry a younger version
Much younger.
of Betty.
Yeah.
And if you put their pictures side by side, they kind of resemble each other in their younger
So
years.
through his life, he's just going to keep trading them in for a new one?
Yeah.
Because,
Oh, I'm
he's
sure.
going to put her through the hell he put Betty through.
Yeah.
Except she won't have to work to
Yes.
support him to get him where he's
Exactly.
already there.
Yeah. And who knows? I don't know if the two signed a prenuptial agreement or anything like that. I don't know when him and Linda got married, but I'm sure that he was probably very kind to her because she was in her 20s and still looked perfect. You know
Yeah,
how you look when you're in your 20s.
He'll
So
be great and sweet and perfect up until,
Yeah.
it's time to get a new assistant.
once you hit them dirty 30s, it's time to trade her in for something younger, So Linda started out as a flight attendant for Delta Airlines straight out of high school. She later transitioned to working as a pool receptionist and eventually a legal assistant in the same building as Dan Broderick's law office. The Broderick's subsequent divorce was stormy and bitter. Betty felt angry and convinced she had spent her early years supporting her husband and growing family while Dan finished school, only to be discarded for a younger woman once he'd achieved financial success. And just like we were just talking about, it's almost like, again, he wringed the wash rag out as dry as he could.
Oh, yeah.
Made her, of course, she's going to age during the process. She's worn out. She's stressed. The guy is gaslighting her here and there, staying
And 4
out.
kids. Oh, geez,
Yes.
man. She's exhausted. She's been through the ringer.
Yeah. And of course, she's got money coming in and she's living a good lifestyle, but only so much of that's going to make you happy if you're not getting the full aspect of what your dream was.
Well, she wants to share that with him.
Exactly.
And he wants to share it with Linda.
Yes, exactly. And so while Betty's at home slave driving for the home and the outward appearance, Dan's out, scoping the town out with Linda. So Linda's getting the good end of the deal.
He's taking her to family parties.
Yeah, the big city and going, they're jet setting all over. And Linda's living the life that
Of a
Betty
maid.
wanted. Yeah. Linda's living the life that Betty wanted. And then really Betty's living the life that...
Betty's living the life of a maid.
Yes.
While
so
he's having fun with Linda.
of course.
She's the nanny, the live-in nanny and maid.
Exactly. And really, he should have paid her for that. She'd probably, at this point, just
Absolutely.
be honest with me and just pay me my due.
Yeah.
I'll move on, right?
Yeah.
But he was a gaslighter. So she seemed unable to let her husband go and began acting erratically, Betty did, with the couple's 4 children caught in the crossfires. And this is where Betty kind of lost her mind. And you've got to think about being with a man who, again, you've put him through school. You feel like he owes you back. And what Betty wants back from him is his time and his energy to the family. She wants him to, now you've invested in your
She
career.
wants the life that she's always wanted, and he
Yes.
owes it to her. I mean, that's...
Exactly.
she
Now,
loves him.
now you need to invest in your family. I've held it down for all these years. Now we need you. It's time. And he just literally just discarded her. So now she's heartbroken that he's cheated on her.
She's heartbroken, and she's lived her life for him.
Yes.
She's given 100,000% to him.
Yes.
Raised his children, took care of his house, put him through school. What does she have outside of him?
Exactly. Nothing. She would even volunteer for the schools and things like that.
Your
Yes.
family is your life. I mean,
Yes.
I live that every day. Like, my whole schedule is my family, right? So
Yes.
it's hard to look on the outside and
Well,
see
she's-
something different.
she's
And
trying
that's
to-
where she is.
Yeah, she's trying to keep herself busy because Dan's never home. So
Right.
she's just since Dan's not there for her to invest in, she's investing in her children
Her family.
and how they grow up and in the community. And Dan, he's just out living the high life. So I can completely understand. Unfortunately, the kids have to be in the crossfire.
Yeah.
Because actually they're other than her friends, they're the only thing she has.
Yeah.
So they're going to see
I get
Betty
it.
at her best and they're going to see her at her
worst,
absolute
yeah.
worst, right? So Betty alleged that Dan's powerful position in San Diego's legal community meant she could not obtain proper legal representation.
Mhm.
Now, Dan eventually received full custody of the children, with Betty left to rely on his financial support after their breakup. She continued to lash out, leaving threatening voicemails for Dan and Linda, vandalizing their home, and even driving her car into Dan and Linda's new house. So, listen, Dan ended up buying a home that Dan and Betty had looked at for years.
Oh, dear
And
God.
it was going to be their final place, right? And he had talked Betty into it. It was kind of in an area that she didn't like. She'd go look at it, and he'd finally kind of talked, one day I'm going to buy this house, and he kind of talked her into dreaming it with him. And then he leaves Betty and gets with Linda and moves her over to their dream home that they were going to live out the rest of their
He is
years
literally
with.
just piling up reasons that
Yes.
Yeah.
And so now she
takes the children. So
and-
she has
and
nothing
takes the
but
kids.
money.
And this is what gets me. And I believe what Betty says when she says that he used his career and his connections to get custody, because this man he knew nothing about his children.
Well, yeah, he was never home.
She was a good mom. She took care of everything. Right. And so now all of a sudden he's decided he's just going to take the kids from her too. Not only is he going to,
He's taken her entire
Yes.
life. And it doesn't
Yes.
matter about the money
no,
when you have nothing.
right.
And her whole life was her children.
Yeah.
And her husband.
And of course she had a college degree. Betty
but
was
she
going to
didn't-
work.
That was just her. That's your
Yes,
life, though, right?
Exactly. And he didn't want to pay her anything. He didn't want to give her any money to help support. And not only that, when he left her in a home that was being redone, refurbished. So when he left her, this home they were only living in certain areas of the home because I think there was mold or something in the house.
Wow.
And they were, had crews coming in and reworking it. So he kind of left her with a broken down house and goes and moves into his dream home with Linda and leaves her and then takes the children from her. So now not only is she losing her husband, but she's lost her children at this point. And trust me, he's not going to be easy to deal with at this point because Dan can get anything he wants and he knows it, right?
Yep.
He knows how to play the legal system. So Dan obtained a series of restraining orders. And when he and Linda eventually married in April of 1989, Dan, at the advice of worried friends and family, hired additional security and reportedly wore a bulletproof vest for the nuptials. So, we'll go back to Betty ran her car into his home. And why did she run her car into Dan and Linda's home is because she would try to get in touch with Dan at his office and at home to set up times where she could see her children. Well, he would avoid her phone calls. And so as she would call and he wouldn't answer, she would start leaving these brutal, horrible voice messages. And I heard them during her court testimony. They played them and they were horrible. She was threatening to kill him. But again, he's not answering her. If he'd have just answered the phone and said, hey, I'll meet you here or this and that. But after I think a series of months went by and he was ignoring her and avoiding her phone calls, she goes to talk, and he's got restraining orders now. She goes to his house anyway to talk to him about, hey, all I want to do is see my kids.
You take your babies away, and man,
Yes.
you'll lose your mind. I can't promise
Yes.
I'm not going to do the same thing.
And her kids are standing at the door crying, and he's refusing to talk to her. He goes back in the house with the children, and Betty just decides, screw you. And she backs her car up and she just rams it right into the front. Now, the bad part about that is you don't know where your kids went
you got to
inside.
make sure your kids are not there.
Right?
You
I
could have
would-
killed your kids.
I would never do that because I would be afraid I would hurt someone.
but you don't
she's-
know what you're going to do
Yes.
in that situation, right? Because she probably
Yes.
never would have thought she would have done that.
I don't think she went,
She seemed
I
very
know.
level-headed
Yes.
before all of this,
her
right?
intent was not to go over there and ram her car.
No, she
into
was,
the
she was
home.
pissed off.
Her intent was to speak to him. And I think that he probably said something that just made her
Oh, I'm sure
snap.
he did. This Dan, I'm sure
Yes.
Dan said something.
Yes. And she just saw red and just ran her car right to that. She was making a point. Okay. And let's be honest, ladies,
Clearly, the point was not made.
when we get mad and we're trying to prove a point and you're not going to listen, sometimes we will take it to the next level. And
It's true.
Betty did. So 7 months after Linda and Dan's wedding, in the early morning hours of November 4th, 1989, Betty took one of her daughter's keys to Dan and Linda's house, entered through a side door, and crept upstairs to their bedroom. She fired 5 shots, killing Linda instantly, with Dan dying soon after. Before she left the scene, Betty pulled the bedroom phone from the wall so the couple could not call for help.
Well, the motion that I made, although I don't think it was a big motion, the movement that I made into their bedroom woke them up and they moved and somebody screamed, call the police, and I said no, and I just fired the gun and this big noise went off. And then I grabbed the phone and got the hell out of there. But I wasn't even in that room. I mean, it just was an explosion. I moved, they moved, the gun went off, and it was like, ah! And it was that fast.
It's really sad to hear because when Betty tells the story, it's almost like she didn't intend to pull the trigger, but she subconsciously intended to pull that trigger. She says she went there to talk to them, but you're going with a loaded gun.
Exactly.
So you are going there to make a point, and if you can't talk to him, then you're going to make your point.
Plus, you used the key to sneak into the house.
That's right.
With a loaded gun.
Yes.
So what else did you think was going to happen when you got in there?
Yeah.
A calm
conversation,
and collected conversation
with
That's
Linda
not gonna
and
happen.
Dan. No.
And you have to wonder what Linda was saying in all of this, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Thinking that she's not going to be Betty in the future.
Absolutely.
I'm different.
Yes. Dan's going to love me and treat me
and I'm
with respect.
special.
Yes.
When in reality, it's going to happen to you. You will become Betty.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's one thing you can't.
Except Betty had a little more invested because she worked her butt off.
Oh, she had a lot more invested. She had her whole life sweating, sweat and tears.
I'm pretty sure the reason he fought, not just to get to Betty, to get those children, was because he didn't want any with Linda.
Yeah.
Well, here, I already have a family.
Here,
let's
we'll just
move
give
them
them to you. Yeah.
He's not going to have more children with Linda.
Exactly. And this is the thing. Linda was not even having to take care of those kids. He had nannies that took care of the kids. And the nannies would get so frustrated with Dan and the things he wouldn't do that they would call Betty, and Betty would have to guide them on how to handle situations.
The day she got pregnant would be the day everything changed for her.
Yes, absolutely. She'd get them stretch marks and she'd get a little aged.
And his attitude would completely change.
Yes, he wouldn't be the center of
legal
attention.
assistant because, Linda's not working there anymore.
Yeah, she's got a baby. He can't be the center of Linda's world anymore.
Yeah.
So Betty fled the scene once this occurred, and she called her daughter Lee, claiming she had gone to the house to confront the couple and had planned to commit suicide if they didn't listen to her demands, but that she had been startled when Linda woke up and spotted her, so she shot them both in a panic.
She called her daughter and told her
yes, by now her daughters are in college.
It's still.
I know. And I thought the same thing, because the last thing I'm going to do is
That's her
I did that to my children's father is call them and get them upset and involved. But
even if I killed a guy at the corner store, I'm not going to call my kid and explain it, right? I mean,
but again, this goes back to really the only thing Linda felt she had in the whole world was her children, which is toxic in its own way. But that's what this relationship had come to.
They're her comfort.
Yes, they're her comfort. They're her everything. And they'd been taken away from her. And I'm sure there's a little bit of, and she had told her children that she was going to do this. When she would get really mad, she had threatened that she was going to do that and she would get the kids upset. So now the day has finally come. And who does she call? Her daughters. Her sons were still younger at this point, but her daughters were grown. And I feel so sorry for those girls because really they were kind of supportive of her through that moment at this point in time. And they really didn't know, were they really, dead? They just knew that their mom was just distraught. Well, the gruesome crime shocked San Diego, but those who knew the Brodericks weren't surprised. Soon after her confession to her daughter, Betty turned herself in, I think the same day or maybe the following day, and investigators began piecing together the evidence. They learned that Betty had recently purchased a .38 caliber revolver. Matching bullet casings was found at the murder scene, and she'd been taking shooting classes at a local club. So Betty admitted she had received a legal notice from Dan's attorney the day before the murders that she found humiliating, warning her of harsh repercussions, including preventing her from seeing her children ever if she continued her harassment of Dan and Linda. Betty told law enforcement she viewed the letter as another example of the years of emotional abuse and provocation that Dan had subjected her to, and it prompted her to make that fateful visit to their home.
Well, I have to say this. So she's taking classes to learn to shoot. She buys a gun. She had this plan the entire time.
Absolutely.
She can't say, well, I was going to go in there and commit suicide. I mean, anybody can shoot themselves.
Yes.
You don't have to have class to shoot yourself.
Absolutely.
She had this plan the entire time. And I get that he was driving her crazy, but she was putting so much thought into this.
Well, she had talked herself into doing it because she had went years telling her
she's
children
pissed
she
off.
was going to
She's
do
angry.
it. Yeah.
You know, and but is Dan worth it? I mean, he's just scum.
No.
And Linda's probably, you know, like, I'm so young and beautiful. This is never going to happen to me. She's just a crazy bitch.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I
Poor
can hear
Dan.
it. Poor Dan. Oh my God, Dan.
How did you stay married to that
And
crazy
he's talking
bitch
about
for so
her,
long?
and he's getting laid by this nice, beautiful girl because
Yes.
she feels sorry for him. And,
Yes.
oh my God, I will never be better.
It's going to be better for me. Absolutely.
Life will be so different.
Yeah.
Okay, so no. And I get wanting to do it, but are they worth it?
No.
Are they really
No.
worth it? I mean, they're just scum.
No, because at the end of the story, you'll see it. You know, nobody wants to live the life she did. So Betty was charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder. During her first trial in the fall of 1990, Betty took the stand in her own defense, painting herself as the long-term sufferer of emotional and psychological abuse. And I absolutely agree with her on that. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no doubt.
I agree.
Even sometimes in Dan's silence, it was emotional abuse. He knew
that was probably worse at times,
well,
right?
yeah, of course. And I think that he knew Betty enough that if he didn't say anything, that was going to drive her to the next level of crazy because she wanted to communicate. That's why he ignored her. He knew that it was going to amp it up. I don't think she'd already threatened to kill him. I'm not sure that he was convinced that she would do it. Maybe towards the end, he became a little more convinced, but I don't
know about that.
That he thought it was going to go down the way it did. I really don't. But then you also got to think, really, if he had narcissistic tendencies like that, did he even think that far in advance?
If he was really thinking she was going to kill him, he wouldn't have pushed her to the limit. He would have backed off.
Right. I agree with that. And with all of the psychological abuse, I mean, the accounts were supported by her daughter, Lee, in her testimony in court. Her other daughter, Kim, discounted the defense, stating that Betty had shown signs of anger and instability long before the murders and that she had believed the shootings were intentional. So she had one daughter who, I know that Betty had told her she wanted to do this. I mean, she told all of her kids she wanted to do it. But she had one daughter that said, yeah, I believe mom was going to do it. And she has the other one that says, well, mom would say stuff like that all the time. She would, be in the kitchen cooking and we'd do something. She'd say, if you don't stop that, I'm going to kill you. So the oldest daughter thought, well, that was just something mom said and she didn't mean it. Where the younger daughter said, no, definitely. Mom was tripping and she definitely had it in her to do
I'm
it.
sure she had her moments when he was not home.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
she was under a lot of stress.
Exactly. So it's all going to I right?
I mean,
of course they saw that, but I mean, I have my moments, but that doesn't mean I'm actually going to kill my family.
Right. But
that's never crossed my mind, no matter how angry I got or so frustrated.
Absolutely
Of
not.
course, I'm not in the same situation. I'm just saying,
Yeah, just day-to-day life.
Yeah, that doesn't mean my kids are going to be like, well, one day mom's going to kill dad.
When or if it happens, yep, knew mom was going to do that.
We've been waiting for this all
a long time.
That's not, just because you get angry and say things doesn't mean it's coming out as an actual thing. So, I mean, it depends on how she was saying it. I don't know.
Well, you can have 4 kids under the same house and each one's going to come out with a different
They're going to take
opinion
it different,
of how things were
and
done.
she may say it differently to another kid.
That's true. Very, very well could be. The jury was unable to reach a verdict, resulting in a mistrial the very first time. The following year, Betty was tried again, and with prosecutors painting a picture of a calculated and vengeful woman who had executed her ex-husband and his new wife in cold blood. And that would be so easy to do because with the recordings of her talking to her kids and things, and listen. They played that in court. It would be so easy to see it that way.
Yeah.
It really would be. But if you take into account all the emotional abuse that she's receiving and all the things that's happening to her, you also know that any normal person, that would send them over the edge.
Yeah.
Right. And so like in any other circumstance, Betty probably wouldn't have reacted like that. But this is her husband and her children.
And they're going to make it out to where, oh, she's just bitter because she's not beautiful anymore and he left her for someone else.
And she's jealous.
She's just jealous, which
yes.
in reality, it's going to make you a different person anyway.
Absolutely.
Because how crappy is it when your husband leaves you for someone younger and more beautiful? You know what I'm saying?
That did nothing for him.
I
to get
supported you the entire time and then you just leave me. I could have
Yes.
left your dumb
Yeah.
ass. You know what I mean? Like it could have gone both ways. She could have found someone at that
Absolutely.
country club and
Yes.
fallen in love. And she didn't. She supported him and she took care of the house, right?
Yeah, didn't have affairs on him or anything.
Yeah.
And he left her alone a lot of the time. I'm
but of
sure
course
she
they're
got
going to make her
lonely.
look like the crazy one. And he made her the crazy one. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what's impressive is on, all of this, Betty, once again, in the second trial, she even took the stand. And I find that impressive. And most people don't get on the stand in their own defense. I think it was a really good thing for Betty because, again, she's very articulate and smart, and she's very candid about who she is. And she's very calculated in how she answers questions. And by calculated, I don't mean manipulative.
no.
She really, sometimes even when it wasn't in the best light for her, she would still speak the truth. And that was impressive to me watching her because she didn't have to be. Now,
Right.
she would defend herself when it was necessary to defend herself, but she also was very defensive because it took so many attorneys would not take her case because of Dan and who he was.
Well, yeah.
So she had to fight to find somebody to even defend her. In the divorce, now it's a murder trial, and she definitely is having problems, and she's having to go outside her own city to find someone that would even take the case, and that was hard for her to do. So now I would be bitter too. I'm going to be honest. I would be very bitter. I would be so angry. Not saying I would take it to the level Betty did.
Well,
but I
he's
would
gone
be
at this
angry
point.
too.
So you're pretty much saying, like, you know what? He was not that way.
Yeah.
And you know those people knew he was an ass.
Oh, absolutely.
Come on. Are you going to
Yes.
tell me that the way he acts everywhere else isn't? I mean, yeah, of course,
Yeah.
he can act like the perfect person at the country club and with his new little girlfriend.
Yes. Well, that's the fun Dan.
You know, yeah, that's the fun
party
Dan.
and hardy
But
Dan.
come on. They knew how he was.
Yes.
So that's pretty-
absolutely.
Come on. That makes me mad too.
Also, the additional defense witnesses claim Betty suffered from diminished psychological capacity as a result of emotional trauma. Well, unfortunately, the jury rejected the claim about Betty being emotionally traumatized, which is crazy to me. But in December of 1991, they found Betty guilty of both counts of second-degree murder. She was sentenced to 32 years to life in prison. So here's a video of Betty when she receives her verdict. So here we go.
We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Elizabeth Ann Broderick, guilty of the crime of murder and fix the degree thereof as murder in the second degree. Victim, Daniel Broderick. We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Elizabeth Ann Broderick, guilty of the crime of murder and fix the degree thereof as murder in the second degree. Victim, Linda Broderick. And we further find...
The jury's verdict, Elizabeth Ann Broderick, guilty of 2 counts of second-degree murder. Jurors told us that a turning point in the trial was Betty Broderick's cross-examination, when her credibility was seriously undermined by prosecutor Carrie Wells. And the jury told us the verdict was a compromise. One juror said that she believed Broderick and tried to hold out for manslaughter. She only agreed on second-degree murder to avoid another mistrial.
The Honorable Thomas J. Whalen, Judge presiding. Please be seated.
So the stakes are high once again, 2 months later, at this sentencing hearing.
My sentencing decision in this case is based solely on the evidence that I heard during the course of the trial and solely upon the laws of the state of California. So for count 1, she's sentenced to the Department of Corrections for a term of 17 years to life.
Betty Broderick is sentenced to consecutive sentences amounting to 32 years to life in prison.
Oh, yeah, that's how everything went down, and Betty got sentenced to prison for the rest of her life, basically. And so Betty died of natural causes while in custody on May 8th, 2026, at age 78, after being transferred from the California Institution for Women to a prison medical facility. The Broderick case remains one of the most controversial and debated true crime stories in modern American history. While the killings were clearly unjustified, many expressed sympathy with Betty's emotional state amid the fallout of her brutal divorce. The case also raised questions surrounding the role of mental health awareness on contentious divorce proceedings. So the Broderick murders were front page news from the moment the victims were discovered. The trials were widely covered in newspapers and magazines. More than 30 years later, the Broderick murders continue to resonate as both a cautionary tale and a window into the darker sides of domestic strife, privilege, mental health, and gender roles. With that being said, we're going to end the story here. So guys, what do you think? I mean, what do you think? Do you think Betty was justified in doing what she did? I mean, it's really hard to say that.
Well, I'm going to say this. Did he deserve it? Yes. Should she have done it? No.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah. I mean, he kind of sent her off the deep end intentionally.
Oh, and he enjoyed it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, I mean, he deserved to have something happen to him. Did he deserve to die for it, him and his new wife? No. I think she should have found a different way to torture him.
Yes. Well, I think taking his money would have been worse on him than anything.
Take that new wife's money.
Yes. And watch him suffer in that way.
Yeah.
And
watch her turn into Betty.
Oh, absolutely.
She can go find a new man.
Yeah, exactly.
With Dan's money.
With Dan's money. I think that Betty just let it take control. And again, I understand that completely.
Right. Well, I feel for her.
Yes,
that's the thing.
I
feel for her.
I do. I feel for her. But I think that at the end of the day, murder's never
the answer
and the resolution to a problem. I just think it would have been a lifelong torture for him to have to pay her.
But that's easier to watch, right? I mean, it's quick when you kill them.
Oh yeah.
If you got to torture them.
Well,
I mean, he's tortured her.
He has.
He tortured her for years.
Yes.
He deserved the same punishment.
Absolutely. And, at the end of the day, Betty Broderick took her children's father away from them. They didn't have the strife and the anguish with him that Betty did.
Exactly.
So they had to suffer the consequences. And that's the sad part. And so, they went for the rest of their lives without either parents, you know, really. So that's the saddest part of the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Because Betty let it get to her. And of course, we've all been in scenarios where we let something get the best of us. But at the end of the day, what she did is not the answer to the problem. But yeah, guys, what do you think? Drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Linda and Dan, neither one deserved what happened to them. But I also think that Betty got a raw deal.
She did.
All the way around.
She did.
So, but yeah, let us know what you think. But until next time, guys, please remember to see the good and stay imperfectly perfect.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless.